Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore how Dipper and Mabel lost in the multiverse. One of the most fascinating, intriguing, and terrifying aspects introduced by the new Bill Cipher book from the Gravity Falls universe is the existence of the multiverse and how vast it truly is. This includes all the universes where Bill Cipher actually wins and achieves his ultimate goal by defeating Dipper and Mabel Pines along with their uncles Stanley and Stanford. The concept of the multiverse and the alternate realities where Bill triumphed is one of the most interesting elements introduced in the Book of Bill. However, Bill Cipher only gives us a small glimpse of this concept. Even so, it's captivating to analyze when and how the Pines twins were truly defeated in these various universes. That's why in this video, I'll go into detail about how Bill Cipher presents the multiverse and the grim, haunting image he paints of all the versions of Dipper and Mabel Pines he has defeated. I'll explain exactly how and when he defeated them. Of course, this video will contain spoilers for the new Gravity Falls book. If you haven't had the chance to get it yet and would like to read it for yourself, I encourage you to read the Book of Bill first and then come back to this video. Well, without further ado, let's get started. In the Book of Bill, this entity reveals that despite being defeated and his physical form being petrified somewhere in the forests of Oregon, his spiritual form remains alive and active. He explains that by reading his book, we're essentially agreeing to make a deal with him. By flipping through its pages and interacting with it, this one-eyed creature forms a connection between where he is and our reality, which is supposed to be the same as the series where Bill was ultimately defeated. In this way, Bill creates a psychic connection with us and reveals many of his secrets, knowledge, philosophy, and morality. One of the most curious aspects Bill Cipher shares, something he often mentioned in the series, is the claim that reality is an illusion and the universe is a hologram. In the book, Bill explains that humans have a very limited capacity to comprehend and assimilate reality. According to Bill, even though we think we have free will, this isn't entirely true, as we've only evolved to reproduce and fight among ourselves. He points out that we can't see beyond the optical spectrum, navigate outside the linear chronology of time, or possess abilities like echolocation. Therefore, our perception of reality is extremely limited. According to Bill, reality is made of code and madness, and everything big is composed of smaller elements that can be manipulated and changed. He tells us that while we're with him, we'll be able to see it all, every reality. When Bill discusses his morality, he describes how he ends up killing an elf named Scrimblow. However, he assures us we shouldn't feel bad about what happened to the elf, because there's a dimension where Scrimblow is still alive and well. Bill Cipher claims to be one of the few beings gifted with the ability to see other realities, universes, or dimensions. For example, there's a universe where he's square-shaped, another where everyone's arms and legs have been reduced to stumps, and another where everyone is terrifyingly adorable. Bill can also see all the worlds and realities where the Pines family completely lost. For instance, he shows us Dipper and Mabel returning to their parents' home at the end of summer and the series. Bill comments, "Look at them, our two little protagonists, living happily ever after without a care in the world." They don't consider for a moment that they're lucky to exist in the only timeline where they kept all their organs intact, out of the infinite timelines where they were erased, torn to shreds, drowned, frozen, or dismembered before reaching the age of 13. But I guarantee you their less fortunate dimensional counterparts think about them all the time. Maybe one day, all those parallel Pines twins will get the chance to meet face to face. Maybe someday in the future, their good luck will finally run out. This comment suggests something quite sinister. The alternate versions of Dipper and Mabel from parallel universes are looking for a way to reach the original Dipper and Mabel from the main timeline where they won, intending to replace them. This idea seems confirmed by the images on 2 full pages of the book, showing the variants fighting among themselves to take over Dipper and Mabel's bodies. Now that we've covered this, I want to go through all these variants from left to right and discuss how they lost in their respective universes. The first one we see is Dipper from the Blind Eye Society. Here we see a version of Dipper Pines that suggests he, along with his sister and friends, didn't escape the Blind Eye Society. It's possible their memories were erased, and they became servants of the society. However, it seems more likely that only Wendy's memory was wiped, and Dipper and Mabel were convinced to join the Blind Eye Society after Dipper showed them Journal Number 3. Ivan Cato and the other members of this organization might have convinced Dipper they were doing the right thing, leading Dipper and Mabel to suppress their memories and traumas, fully becoming part of the society. The next variants we see are Petrified Dipper and Mabel. In this reality, events seem to have unfolded just as they did in the series up until the events of Weirdmageddon. At this point, Bill Cipher's minions, along with those giant bats, managed to capture and petrify the Pines twins. In that universe, Bill ultimately won, and the Pines twins became part of Bill's throne of petrified people. Next, we see Zombie Mabel. In this dimension, the zombies managed to turn Mabel into one of them before she realized that karaoke music was their weakness. These zombies were brought to life by a spell or enchantment Dipper performed to show government agents that the supernatural was real and present in the town. This implies that in this universe, both Uncle Stan and Dipper also became zombies, which is why they couldn't defeat Bill. The following variant is Ghost Dipper or Spiritual Dipper. In this reality, Dipper made a deal with Bill in exchange for the password to the secret laptop. As a result, Bill stole his body, and Dipper never managed to reclaim it. The most chilling detail is that, according to what we read in Journal Number 3, Bill had planned to, after executing his plan, jump off the town's water tower, an act that would have killed Dipper, leaving his spirit without a body. This would make everyone believe Dipper had gone mad and taken his own life. This could explain why this version of Dipper has white eyes, as he is a wandering soul. At the bottom, we see a variant of Mabel possessed by Bill. Her full story isn't revealed, but it's hinted that at some point, Bill made a deal with Mabel and tricked her, stealing her body just as he did with Dipper. This likely occurred during the events of the sock opera and Mabel's play. It could also have happened when Mabel was deeply upset upon realizing that Dipper wanted to stay in Gravity Falls as Uncle Stanford's assistant to be mentored by him, instead of returning home with Mabel to start high school. Next, we have Pixel Dipper or Video Game Dipper. This is a version of Dipper who failed to defeat Rumble McSkirmish, either because he didn't learn how to beat him, let him win outright, or simply wasn't brave enough. As a result, he ended up becoming a character in the Fight Fighters video game. There's also a possibility that Giffany transferred Dipper's consciousness into the digital world instead of Seuss's. The next variant is Haunted Shop Mabel or Smile Dip Mabel. This is a version of Mabel who went mad after consuming the forbidden candies that caused intense hallucinations. In that reality, Mabel never managed to escape her trip and remained trapped forever in that fantasy world. Because of this, she couldn't help her brother Dipper, and together they failed to stop Bill. From the little information revealed in the Book of Bill about the therapy prison, it's mentioned that this place contains many other extremely powerful and brutal monsters and entities, some classified as maximum security. For instance, the core from Amphibia and Cthulhu are present, as well as that friendly dog from the Sweet Smile hallucination Mabel experienced. However, it's suggested that this dog isn't a product of her imagination, but an entity from the astral plane that, in one reality, captured Mabel and trapped her forever in that world of apparent fantasy and fun, preventing her from escaping. This ultimately led to her dimension being defeated by Bill. The next variant is Mabel, Queen of the Gnomes. In this timeline, Mabel became the Queen of the Gnomes because the kids failed to defeat them, as they didn't discover that their weakness was leaf blowers. It's possible that Mabel was forced to marry the gnomes and become their queen. Some fans have theorized that Dipper and Uncle Stanley were killed by the gnomes, which is why they don't appear in this story. However, this last detail is purely fan speculation. The final variant we see is Wooden Dipper, or Dipper trapped in his fate as predicted by the shapeshifter. In this timeline, Dipper was turned into wood by the ghost lumberjack. This happened because Pacifica Northwest didn't allow all the townsfolk to enter the mansion during the family party, either out of malice or because she herself fell victim to the ghost lumberjack. As a result, the curse was never lifted, and Archibald Corduroy was unable to pass on to the afterlife. This is how Dipper remained made of wood forever. Another variant shows us Dipper and Mabel being devoured in that timeline or universe by the Super Halloween trickster. It's implied that, in this dimension, Dipper angered the Super Halloween trickster by disrespecting his celebration. For failing to gather the required 500 candies, something went terribly wrong, and perhaps Seuss couldn't help them in time. As a result, Dipper and Mabel were devoured by the Super Halloween trickster. This is why we see the children's bodies covered in old, rancid candy, along with the purple mass or tissue that makes up the trickster, especially in his second, more monstrous form. Another variant we see is Wax Figure Dipper, turned into a wax figure by the living wax statues of the Mystery Shack. In this reality, Dipper is melting under the scorching sun. This is a rather tragic and brutal ending for him, as it's implied that, in this dimension, neither he nor Mabel managed to stop the wax statues. They eventually got their revenge on Stan Pines for locking them up and forgetting about them for so long. The next variant is Bipper, or Bill Cipher inside Dipper's body. In this reality, Bill didn't discard Dipper's body and carried out all his plans and chaos while using it. That's why Dipper remained in that state. Another variant shows miniature Dipper and Mabel, shrunken to a tiny size after using special crystals that shrink or enlarge objects. In that reality, they sadly remained miniatures and couldn't save themselves. We also see variants from the episode where Mabel starts dating Gideon, titled The Hand That Rocks Mabel. Here, we see that, unfortunately, Gideon managed to stab Dipper in the back with scissors, using the magic of his amulet. We can assume that Mabel didn't arrive in time to save her brother. The variant of Mabel accompanying this Dipper has a bluish aura, indicating that she is using Gideon's magical amulet. It's likely that, after failing to save Dipper, Mabel, driven mad by what happened, killed Gideon using magic and kept the amulet for herself, becoming some kind of witch or seer living in Gravity Falls. In that reality, there is also out of time Dipper variant. This version of Dipper used Blendin Blandin's special device to travel through time. However, it seems that even though he changed many things, he failed to achieve his goal, whether it was to go on a date with Wendy at the fair or some other objective. By using this special time travel tape measure, Dipper created a paradox. His body and matter became unstable, leaving him translucent with invisible parts. There is also a zombie Dipper variant, which can be assumed to belong to the same reality where Mabel becomes a zombie. Additionally, there is a Mabel who is part of the Blind Eye Society, which appears to be connected to the version of Dipper that joins that organization. Another variant is one of Dipper's clones, specifically clone number 2, similar to the one we saw in the series. However, it's likely that this is a different variant since, in this reality, Dipper destroyed all his paper clones except for clone number 2, who managed to escape and now seeks revenge for the death of his friends. This differs from what happens in the series, where clone number 3 escapes into the forest along with another clone. These are all the variants of Dipper and Mabel that lost in their respective timelines, allowing Bill to win. It's suggested that there are many more, but for now, Bill Cipher only showed us these as a demonstration of his power and his brutal abilities to explore the multiverse and assimilate reality. This concept of the multiverse is very interesting, especially with the idea that there are other versions of Dipper and Mabel who not only lost, but seek to eliminate the main timeline versions. In fact, In the canonical Legends of Gravity Falls comics, the evil variant of Mabel from another reality was already directly introduced. She seeks to destroy Uncle Stan and was expelled from her dimension due to her cruelty. All of this seems to indicate that we could see more of the Gravity Falls multiverse in the future, possibly in comics or novels. And well, that's all we know about Dipper and Mabel's multiverse in Gravity Falls. Honestly, this book of Bill topic seems to be one of the most interesting ones, as although it's presented in an apparently simple and superficial way, if we pay attention, all the variants Bill shows us are quite fascinating and terrifying to analyze. I had no idea that the only timeline where they managed to defeat Bill was the one we see in the series, which is implied to be the main one. I thought that was amazing, as Bill Cipher is essentially like the Thanos of the MCU, but in the Gravity Falls universe, an incredibly powerful and brutal villain. I would love to see these timelines where the Pines siblings Lost adapted into different episodes or chapters. I think all of this would be incredible to see and would work perfectly as a spin-off series. However, this is just something I'd like to see, and of course, it's not confirmed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did you already know that in all other timelines, the Pines siblings lost to Bill Cipher? Were you familiar with how and when they were defeated according to the Book of Bill? Lastly, do you think we'll see more material about the Gravity Falls multiverse? Do you like this concept? Comment your answers to these questions below, as well as your general opinion about the Gravity Falls multiverse and how Dipper and Mabel Pines lost to Bill Cipher in all the other timelines. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and share it to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.